I love you, Mom. And as you all know that this has been organized by NISA Study Circle. NISA Study Circle was established in 2008, and we have been serving the community. We have been working for the women's sector religiously and non-religious activities also we have participated. And here we take this platform and take this opportunity to help mothers get help from experts in the upbringing of their kids. So in order to do that, not taking much of your time and coming to the point and starting our program, I introduce you to my friend and an expert in learning and strategies for learning, Andrea Perry. She's a certified handle screener with international experience, and she has worked across the border. Her clients have experienced significant improvement. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so a little bit of introduction so that you know Andrea better and you can really have a great experience with her. So seeing the value of moment-based programs and wanting to offer more, Andrea established strategies for learning in 2009. In 2010, she co-presented Move to Learn with neuropsychologists from Toronto for Changes nonprofit enterprises in Fredericton, NB, where approximately 100 participants were taught the fundamentals of Move to Learn. The same summer, Andrea completed Handle Levels 1 and Level 2 in Halifax. On returning to Karachi, let me inform you that she also have spent a lifetime in Karachi as well. So when she returned to Karachi, she began to incorporate gentle enhancement and handle activities in her strategies for learning practice. Her clients soon began experiencing even more impressive outcomes. Andrea returned to Canada in 2013 and re-established strategies for learning in Woodstock, NB, where we are right now. She traveled to Seattle, Washington, to complete the Handle Screener course, Level 3, and has been an affiliated of the Handle Institute since 2014. Andrea continues to be involved in her community through participation in the Tuesday Night Singers, Elementary Literacy Friends, Western Valley Wellness Network, the Carleton County Refuge Community, Committee, Alzheimer's Association, Memory Cafe, volunteer and board members of the Multicultural Association of Carleton County, and serves on board of directors of Family and Early Childhood West. And I think that's more than enough for an introduction. Yes, and she still offers services online and as well as in person. So let us start with Andrea. Let me just tell you that after this introduction, we'll be putting forth some questions to Andrea and she will be replying to them and giving her introduction also. And if after that, if anyone has any questions, please raise your hands in the meeting, and whoever is online with us, you can leave your questions in the comment box on YouTube and we will try to answer it, okay? So here we introduce Andrea. Assalamu alaikum, Andrea, how are you?
Alaikum assalam. I'm fine, thank you. And thank you for inviting me today, Sabika.
It's great to have you here, Andrea. Okay, Andrea, so the first question, I would put the last question first. As we know that, the mothers have the basic problem. I think that everyone, when she becomes a mother, she has this problem. And the problem is that my child is getting 50% max, whereas the child of my neighbor who is of the same age, born on the same date, is getting 80% max. Whereas we give them the same food, we send them to the same school, they go to the same tuition centers, and yet they are having these differences. So what do you have to say regarding the development of a child and how do the mother?
And just exploring our world at that very early age. Some of it also begins as the child is developing within the mother's womb as well. And there are things that can affect that too. But we have to remember that every single child is unique, and comparing one child to another is not really going to be helpful to them. What we want to compare the child is what he was able to do a month ago or a year ago to what he's able to do now. And readiness is a major component. Children need to be ready for the tasks that we're giving them. And if that readiness is not there, then we need to do what is necessary to get them ready. And that again involves how the body and brain are working together.
Yes, so the function of body and brain to every child would be different. So, Andrea, how could we help to make this function better? Like, how could the mother contribute in this development of body and brain?
Physical movement, which is organized and repetitive and rhythmic, is really what organizes and integrates the brain.
Okay, so yeah, so putting the question the other way, maybe most of the mothers have questions like, when do we start? When do we start the actual education? The point here is education, right? So when do we start the actual education of my child? Like when do I start teaching him the letters and numbers? And is there something before that the child has to learn, or the education start with the learning of ABCs?
Yes, there's definitely something. And number one, we need to be doing what is developmentally appropriate. So for instance, children under the age of 5 are really not developmentally ready to be sitting at a desk for long periods of time. They are designed to be active and playing and getting dirty and handling materials of different textures and all of these kind of things that we all, a lot of us used to do when we were children, but those things have, a lot of them have fallen by the wayside in today's lifestyle. You know, again, the underlying abilities that are needed in order to be able to hold a pencil. Do you have muscle tone that you can hold a pencil properly? Do you have sensitivity in the palms of your hands that makes holding a pencil feel very uncomfortable? If you have those problems, it's going to be very difficult to learn to write and color and things like that. If muscle tone is also needed for speech development, every form of communication depends on your muscle tone, and that isn't strength of muscles. It means the readiness in our muscles to respond to any kind of stimuli. So, how quickly can we respond when we are asked to answer a question? Because that takes motor control. We have to decide how we are going to use our mouth in order to answer the question. Same with writing, same with our facial expressions, our body language and gestures. All of these things are dependent upon muscle tone, which develops as the child is learning to sit up and in their relationship with gravity, as they're learning to walk and balance themselves. This is where that develops. So that's very important in the early months of development.
So yes, so Andrea, is there a particular age when we should expect the child to walk or to talk or to start learning or to respond? As you said that this is a very important stage. So is it so that the child should, for example, should start walking at the age of 1? When he completes 1 year, he should be able to stand. And if he's not able to stand, does that mean that the child has some problem with his physical or mental development?
There are guidelines, and you can Google child development and find month by month where children are, but it's fairly broad. So walking, say, between the age of maybe 10 months to 15 months, something along that line. So it's a broad spectrum, and there's no single age. But one of the very important developmental steps is crawling. And I find that a lot of babies have not crawled. Either they haven't crawled in the proper way, which is a cross pattern, moving your right hand and your left leg, then your left hand and your right leg. Or they may be doing a bottom shuffle, or they may be crawling along and dragging one leg behind them. This crawling needs to be done for at least 6 months. And we do tend to rush children into learning to walk. But crawling is so fundamental to the development of eye-hand coordination, to the development of your hands and the ability to withstand different tactile input on the palms of the hands. It's important for developing the ability of the eyes to focus far and near, which is very much important if you're in school and trying to focus on a blackboard, and then bring your eyes to your notebook, which is right in front of you. There are so many different benefits to crawling that this is one really important step that children need to go through, and they need to do it for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a nice piece of information, that the crawling process, usually what parents do is when the child is crawling, they would hold the hands of the child, make him stand and make him walk, because they
Yes,
are in a
yes.
hurry that the child grows faster, starts walking faster. So what they do is they make the child walk. So this is a very great piece of information, that this learning process where the child crawls, and he has to crawl for a certain time so that he develops his motor skills. Now, saying that, so the motor skills start developing at a very early age, right? So
Yes,
now my
yes.
next question to you is, Andrea, that just in case, like the minimum age of the child going to school in most of the countries is 4 years. Okay, so by that time, do you expect, do as a mother, do I expect my child to be perfect, to start learning perfectly? Or what should be my expectation of from a 4-year-old?
Again, readiness is the thing. Is the child ready for the tasks that he's being given? Like ideally here in Canada, children who are 4 and going to 3 and 4, going to a daycare or preschool, spend a good part of their day playing. They're out on the playground, outdoors, they're coloring, painting, moving, things like that. And they're not spending their time trying to learn the alphabet and learning to write. They would do some coloring and things like that. But a lot of time would not be spent on reading and writing and things like that, which is really a big expectation for a 4-year-old. And I know that it is the common trend there, and that there are many children that are able to do that and to sit still. But there are also a lot of children who find it very difficult to sit still and sustain their focus for even 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes at a time. And really at that age, you shouldn't be expecting more than that.
Yes, but you know what? As a mother, I was concerned when my child was 4, and I would see all the other children doing good, okay, and they are able to sit. So, and when my child keeps on running in the class, and the teacher complains that, your child is not stable, you should go and get him tested, or you should go and get him checked up. Maybe he has some problems with his mental stability or something. So as a mother, it is very depressing and very, very stressful to manage this kind of comments that come for a child. What do you have to say about that?
In Handle, which is the approach that I'm trained in, we say that we're not about labels. We're about getting to the underlying causes of difficulties. So we're also non-judgmental. So we would not say this child is doing good or this child is not doing good. We say this child may need some help with their motor skills. They may need some help with their sensory sensitivities also play a major role in the ability to sit still and learn. If you are sitting in a classroom, for instance, and you are sensitive to sound, so every time somebody walks past the classroom in the hallway, or the child behind you unzips their pencil case, or somebody scrapes their chair, that takes your attention away from the task that you are doing. If you are very sensitive to light and the fluorescent lights are painful to your eyes, it's going to be very difficult to keep sustaining your attention. If you are sitting on a chair and the material in your clothes and the material on the chair are rubbing together and creating static electricity and irritating the backs of your legs and so forth, you are paying attention to what we call attentional priorities. This is what you need to feel safe and secure and comfortable in your environment. And until you achieve that comfort, the ability to be comfortable and feel safe and secure in your environment, you are not going to be able to attend to the task at hand. So what we want to do is reduce sound sensitivity, reduce light sensitivity, reduce tactile sensitivity or sensitivity to different textures and to touch. All of these things we can do with our handle activities.
Yes, and also I have seen, like, with my kids, I have an experience that there are books available where for the toddlers, where not exactly books, those are cards available where there are animals drawn on it, and there is some kind of animal skin there at the between, where in the middle, and then they can just touch it and feel it. So it seems that these develop. So what when I say the word motor skills, that comes again and again, what exactly does these motor skills mean, and do they last lifelong, or is it just in childhood that they develop the motor skills? What exactly is
Yes.
motor skills, and what is the age when they develop?
So motor skills, motor means movement.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our ability to move, basically, and our ability to move efficiently, to move our body. If we stop and see all the information that we take it in through our body, through our eyes, through our ears, through our hands, manipulating objects, moving things around, and so forth. It's processed in our brain, and then the output is all through our body. We have to speak our answers, we have to write answers, we have to manipulate things as we're asked to do, and so forth. So the body and brain connection is so important. So motor really is what organizes and integrates the brain. The second part of your question, can you repeat that? Motor and
Yes.
how it.
What are motor skills, and when do they exactly develop? What
Yes.
is the age
Okay.
when the motor skills develop? Do
Yes.
they stop, or do they continue lifetime?
Our brains continue to change throughout our lifetime. And it's something called neuroplasticity. So the brain is plastic, it's able to change. And as long as we are alive, our brains continue to change, and they change in response to the things that we are doing. So if you decide to learn to play the piano, your brain is going to change to accommodate all of the learning that's taking place, how you move your fingers, how you move your eyes from looking at the music to looking at the keyboard, all of these things. So we can change our brain at any age. So regardless of what age we are at, I even work with seniors, adults who have had brain injury or strokes, things like that. Even then, even at that age, in their 60s, 70s, 80s, we can bring improvements and bring back any abilities that they have lost and so forth. So, with children, it's great to start when they're about 4 or 5 years old with any kind of remedial programs like this. But even I worked with many children who were 10, 11, 12, and older, and we have still seen significant improvements in their ability to learn and to remember, to pay attention, all of these things.
Okay, so yes, the motor skills, and we should be so thankful to the creator that he has fitted such a motor. If you speak in physics terms, and the motor is actually a machine that keeps you working. So he has given us such a machine in our that's called brain that keeps all our body parts active, and that is so good. And we should be really thankful. And that's a good thing to know that even if I want to learn French at any age, maybe I can start at any time. So in this lockdown, now every one of us have an opportunity. We cannot say that I am 50 and I don't know, my mind is not capable. So your mind is capable and you can do anything at any age. Yes, so yes, very good information to share with our viewers this time. Now the next thing is that Andrea, having said about the motor skill development, if suppose my child, for example, there is a child who is able to do all the crafts very well. She is very good at crafts. She can memorize all the steps, all the procedures involved in completing a task. She might be good at cooking. Maybe for girls, if I speak of like 7 years and 8 years girls, they are so good, so enthusiastic about cooking. And these days with this pandemic in the world, everyone is busy making cupcakes and cakes and things like that. So what I mean to say is that all the people are these children who are good in crafts. But it is so surprising that such a smart child who is good in crafts, but that child faces problems academically. Maybe she's not scoring very low, but when we see her craft skills, we expect a lot from her in the school or academic performance, which is not that good. So why does this contradiction happen?
Yes, I actually worked with a little girl in Karachi. She was about 10 when she came to me. And this was exactly the case with her, that she was fantastic in all kinds of arts and crafts and so forth. But she had difficulty paying attention in school. Her like reading and writing were very difficult for her. She was seeing words backwards, writing words backwards. Spelling was very difficult. If she would write a page, one single word would be spelled 3 different ways on that page. She had to have her exams separately, like she would be seated separately, and she would have a simpler exam with just multiple choice questions rather than having to write paragraphs. She also had a lot of difficulty making friends and socializing and that sort of thing. And, that girl, mashallah, now is doing her A-levels. She's doing the most, challenging courses in the schooling there in Karachi, and just, thriving. And so what was going on there, like we used I was using a program called Move to Learn at that time in Karachi. And that program went back and took children through the developmental motor movements. So we went back, we did them a second time, just giving the brain a second chance to develop in a natural way, no medications required, nothing like that. And they would go through, there were 10 movements, and we would do approximately 1 movement a month. You had to master it, and you had to do them in the correct sequence. And once you have mastered a movement, then you move on to the next one. And I did do some handle with her as well, but I was just beginning my handle journey at that time. And so, paying attention, all the things that come with attention, those are usually the first things we see. Within 6 to 8 weeks, we begin to see improvements in attention. And she became able to read and write much more efficiently, to finish her work and not get distracted. And her teachers were constantly saying about every subject that we're seeing good improvement. And then they would always add, but you just need to work a little bit harder, which I think is very discouraging for children to hear that. They're working hard already, and children who have these difficulties probably work 10 times harder than the children who don't have any learning issues and so forth. So to keep telling them you have to work harder is pretty discouraging for them.
Yes. So yes, this statement, I would just take this as a statement, and really the parents would pressurize the child as if the 4-year-old is next year going to be in his PhD. You know, that I have seen and I've experienced that parents would, if their child is not able to reach the expected, they would really push him hard and give him pencils and
Yeah.
hit on the knuckles, and so that he tries to memorize it, whereas the problem is somewhere else. So
Yes.
what exactly happens to the body and mind if this kind of approach is like the problem is somewhere else, but we are concentrating only on his letters, only on his numbers, rather than really addressing the problem? So where exactly that problem lies, and how should be the approach of the parent?
Yes, this can really damage a child's psyche and their self-esteem. And we need to be understanding and patient, and find the ways to help them to be ready for the task that we're asking them to do. Just, I mean, you were talking about 4-year-olds. When I first started in this journey, I was working at a hospital where children with, they call slow learners, were coming. And they were doing remedial teaching and occupational therapy. And there was a boy, he must have been 10 or 11 years old, who had been coming there for quite a few years. And every time he would come, he would be given a notebook and asked to write the same sentence over 50 times. And he would be coming in looking so dejected, just bent over and his head down. He never said hello to me. And clearly he had been doing this for a long time, so there was not any real significant improvement happening. Then we started Move to Learn. And so we started him doing Move to Learn. It was in a matter of weeks, I saw this boy coming in and he was standing erect and he was smiling, and he stopped and he said hello to me. And his parents came in after a few more weeks and they were saying, oh, he's doing so much better in school. And so it is the movement aspect that we have to work on, the developmental aspect. We have to get our children developmentally ready to do the tasks instead of forcing them to do something they're not ready to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we have to change our approach towards our kids and
Yes.
help them
Yeah.
develop that skill, which is making them lag in doing their work, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
now you'd use the term slow learners. These days, this is an upcoming term. I remember that in my childhood, we never heard in our class or our teachers saying that this child is a slow learner, he needs special attention. That might be a drawback as well of that time, but at the same time, this word has become, I feel, I mean, this is my opinion, that this word slow learner is being used to market some people or some kind of a profession, or maybe is it not every child could be a slow learner. So is there a way that instead of someone else telling me that your child is a slow learner, I myself analyze whether my child falls into the category of a slow learner or not, so that someone is not taking a wrong benefit out of it, and someone is not actually, maybe because we spend a lot when we say slow learners and we take them weekly to the person who has to actually deal with our child. So do you think that here there are two parts of my question. First, who are the slow learners, and is there a way that we can analyze if my child is a slow learner or not, or is there a necessity that only the teacher could determine that the child is a slow learner? So this is the first part of the question.
Yes. That's a difficult one because slow learner is really not a term that is being used uh, by the psychological community anymore. It's a very old term here in Canada. And so, I mean, pace is something that's, again, it's a very internal thing, and it is related to what we call, I would say, to attention, uh, how well the two hemispheres of your brain are working together. That has to do with the speed that you process information. And really, what I found with most of the children that I worked with is that they were all taking in the information, but they were having a hard time with the output. So they could learn, they could understand, but when you ask a question, it took them a really long time to think up an answer. And more often than not, the teacher would run out of patience and wouldn't wait. So either they just stopped answering, or they would say, I don't know, or whatever. But they really sort of stopped trying because nobody could wait for them. But if you waited, and sometimes I had children that you would have to wait for 2 minutes before they could process what you had said to them, and then think about what they wanted to say and make their mouth and tongue move to give you an answer. So that is part of what is slow processing of information. Again, it comes out when you're trying to write. It takes a long time. But most of the children that I worked with did not ever require, even these are children up to 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age, did not require any remediation once we got that pace picked up. By getting their body and brain working together, they were able to do all the work. They had been learning everything all along, and they were just producing. The only children that I found needed remediation were the ones who were so unable to attend while they were in the classroom that it was like they were only there physically. Their mind was not in the classroom, so they were not picking up. And those were really only a handful of children that I ran into that had that issue.
Yes, so that means that most of the kids are able to grasp things, they are able to absorb everything, but to give an output, it takes time. So the
Yes,
parents and the teachers need to be patient with such kids,
yes,
and we need
yes,
to wait till the kid replies, and we should give
yes,
him an opportunity to take his time to give an answer, his way of responding. It should not be a standard way of responding. For example, you show him an apple and you ask him, what is it? Maybe the child, he sees something and he would say this is a red color thing instead of saying that this is an apple. So it
yes,
doesn't make a difference. That doesn't make your child less your child is not very good, or it doesn't mean that your child cannot do anything in life. Give him time to learn, give him time. It's not his marks that are important, it's learning process that is important. If you make him I mean, Andrea would agree to this, that if the child is into the right learning process, definitely he would be an achiever when he grows up. So the learning process is very important. How the pattern of learning that you are setting for him is important. Instead of forcing the child that give me the reply, what is it? And I want to know at this moment, what are you thinking? I just taught you. These are the words that come out of our mouth when first we start with our kid. I just told you that this is an apple. How come you don't recognize it's an apple? Where the child takes time to recognize things. Very, very good that that this space is very important. Give the child his time, not according to our clocks, but according to the child, that he needs time to respond. Yes. So this is
and
about
we
slow.
need to think, we need to think, how is my child going to feel about himself? How
Yes.
does he feel about himself?
Yes.
That is so important. I mean, what can be more important than to grow up feeling that you are a valuable person
Mhm.
regardless of how you learn or how you speak or how you behave. You are a person worthy of respect and um, care and
Yes,
love.
definitely. Yeah. One of the speakers, I was attending a program virtually, and the speaker said that if you want your child to be a doctor, treat him like a doctor from the childhood. If you want your child to be a scholar, if you want him to be a religious scholar, treat him that way. Treat Do you speak to the doctor like this, that get up and go away? You don't say that to the doctor, right? So the approach towards your child, what you want your child to be, maybe he doesn't turn into that, but still your approach towards him should be from the childhood that way. It's such a nice thing to share with all the mothers. Treat your child as you want him to be when he grows up. So speaking of slow learners, first thing is, okay, the mothers can help the child. The mothers can themselves help the child. Not every child would need a expert to attend him. So is this a mental issue, and does the child need a medical approach here? Does that child needs medicines? Like, in the market there are certain medicines available that say that this would help in the neurodevelopment of the child. So does the child actually need those medicines when he's so small and still into the learning process?
I'm not aware of any medication that helps with neurodevelopment. There are medications that are given for ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, uh, which basically mask the symptoms. Um, they don't have any long-term curative effect or anything as long as the child is taking them. They may be calmer, they may be less hyperactive, they may be able to pay attention, but there are also a lot of side effects that go along with those medications, stunting your growth and disrupting the appetite and sleep and even suicidal thoughts and so forth. So um, I prefer natural uh, movement-based approaches, something that doesn't have any kind of side effect or harmful effect for the child.
Okay, so you've been using the term move to learn a lot many times. So just can you put a little light on that? Like, what approach is it, and do we need some person to deal with it, or is it we who can go with
Yeah.
this move to learn?
Yes, move to learn is something I came across at the Learning Differences Project, where I first worked in Karachi in this field. I am a former teacher also, and I taught at the Karachi American School. So after I left there and was hired at this hospital, and seeing how dejected the children were and seeing the lack of progress, I thought there's got to be something more, something that's come through all the research which is being done into how the brain functions. And I came across this program. It was actually developed by a Canadian woman whose daughter, and that woman she has passed away now. So her daughter is probably about my age. And she her daughter had attention deficit. She had been diagnosed with attention deficit disorder and dyslexia. And so her mother wanted to do something to help her. So the first thing she did, she went and took special education courses. Then she started working with all kinds of specialists, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, developmental optometrists, all the different fields, as well as nutrition and so forth. And she developed this program called Move to Learn. And it was just the perfect thing for us there in Karachi. It is inexpensive, and all you need basically is this little book. I don't know if you can see this. It's called 10 Gems for the Brain. And you can order it online. I think Sabika will share the Move to Learn website, the link. It's like the book, if you're just ordering one, it costs maybe $20, 20 Australian dollars. This woman had moved to Australia, so the program is developed now in Australia. You can order a DVD that shows how to do the movements if you like. But this little book is pretty much sufficient, and you can do it yourself. Working from home, all the instructions are in this it's a little ebook, so you order it and you get the book right on your computer and you print it off yourself. So, you don't have to bother about shipping or anything like that. And I have seen such wonderful results with this program. I highly recommend it, and it's something that, anybody can do. But again, you have to remember, you're not pushing the child. They may find some of these movements difficult, although they look like something very simple to us. But if your child is having difficulties with learning, they may also be having difficulties doing these movements. So we have to be very patient and gentle in our approach to doing them, and give them time, keep practicing it until they master one movement, and then you move on to the next one.
Okay. Yeah. So the bottom line is that key to the best of upbringing is patience. You be patient with your child and you see the best of results with them, right? Okay. So before putting allowing my audiences to raise questions, I just have a last thing to convey that in this time when we are all in lockdown and the schools are closed, instead of worrying about the curriculum, instead of giving the child math problems and making him the teacher is not able to make you study, I'll make you study. So we devise a plan that, okay, today you're going to finish 2 lessons of science, 2 lessons of geography, 2 lessons of history, and then we are just into it, and we want our child to be updated every day. Instead of doing this, wouldn't it be better that we work with the child in his learning process, in his brain development, which he actually doesn't get time when he goes to school? There is no time for the child to do activities which involve brain development. Give him projects that he could do instead of giving him the tablet and making him do whatever he wants to. You can give him a project to develop. For example, if he's a 7th grader, maybe you can give him the project on circulatory system. Allow him to do what he wants to study. Allow him to, if he's a 4th grader but he wants to read a book of grade 6, allow him to do that. This is the time that the child could most benefit to develop his physical and mental capabilities. This is my little opinion, okay, that this is the time not to work on your curriculum, but to work with the physical activities, with the development of your child, which he actually doesn't get time. Let him do, allow him to do what he wants to do. Just make the borderline, you guide him, and then you see the change in your child. Okay, so now if my audience is any one of you who has questions for Andrea here in the meeting, please, you can raise your hand, and so that we can just put in questions to Andrea. Any questions for Andrea related to learning and development, what she has already said, or maybe something new, or your personal problem, or not necessary that it's with your child, but maybe something that you want to ask?
I think Nida has a question.
Nida? Okay. Okay. So yes, Nida, go ahead with your question.
Hi, good morning, guys. Good morning, everyone. Actually, I just wanted to ask you about these computer games and the screen time thing. Although we, like most of us, we know that a lot of screen time, it's not good for our children. But what about these computer games? Like, sorry? Like the ones which are really, popular today among the children, the Minecraft and stuff like that. Actually, I don't want to allow my children to get indulged with these games, but to be honest, because of the peer pressure, and they have friends, they are playing those games and stuff. So I just want to know your opinion on it.
Well, ideally, children shouldn't have more than 2 hours of screen time in a week. This is the recommendation. And I know that is really difficult, but I have truly seen some children with very severe developmental delays who had their computer games and TV taken away from them and saw immediate improvement. What I would say is that limit the time that the child is able to use them, and tie it to some kind of achievement. So maybe he has some chores to do around the house. So doing his chores, he gets to use the computer game for half an hour, or finishing a certain amount of schoolwork, or anything like that. So tie it to, it's a reward. It's not a privilege. It's not a right. It's a reward that they get for doing their work. And keep it as minimal as possible.
Yeah, and one more thing, Andrea, do these computer games anyways affect the brain mental development of the child? Because I have read literature about it, and some literatures did support that people who play more of computer games, they have a good mental development. Is that true to any extent?
It is not for children, I would say for sure. Really, children shouldn't be playing these games before the age of 7, for one thing. It develops the brain in a totally different way. For instance, what we want to be developing in the hand is this pincer grasp. This is what we use to hold a pen. We have to be able to hold a pen. But with the computer game, you are using your thumbs, right, to play. So you're developing a different map in your brain for the use of your hands. You are also seeing a lot of them have very random movement in the screen. So the eyes are jumping all around. We need our eyes to be able to move smoothly across the line of print when we're trying to read, or even for playing sports. Our eyes need to be moving in a very focused and linear way for us to be able to follow along the game or to follow along in our script when we're reading. So this again can disrupt the way the eyes move. So it develops the brain certainly in some ways, but is it a good, useful development for learning? Not, probably not. Also, I had a client who had, his mother had taken him to a psychologist in England, and she said, your child has attention deficit disorder. His mind works super fast. And this game is the only thing that works at the same speed as his brain. So if he's playing on this game all the time, it is going to disrupt his social development. And social development is very important if we think about getting, as an adult, having a job. If we're a doctor, we need to be able to, see our patients and see in their face how they are feeling. They may not be expressing everything. We need to be tuned into people. We need to be able to respond in a gentle and understanding way to questions and things like that. So social development is as important as intellectual and academic development. So I think these games probably could be more harmful than they are helpful. Let's put it that way, if we do it too much.
Yes, that's so true. That social development, we do work on the mental, physical, academic development, but we never think of the social development, how the child is interacting with others, how is his response in the society, how does he behave. That is really such a great importance, and that proves that your mind is actually developing. If your child is behaviorally good, that would really prove that You don't need you don't carry your mark sheet everywhere. Look, I am 90%. Like, but your behavior tells that you have been brought up in a very, very pleasant atmosphere. Your smile tells that your brain is happy, and that is more important. And yes, the screen times definitely affects your social behavior. Such a nice response from Andrea. Yes, I think my sister here, Sarvat, she has a question. Please, Sarvat, put in your question. Yes, Sarvat, go ahead.
Yes, hello, Andrea. Uh, my question is that my child knows everything, but when it comes, when she faces some guest, someone, it's like she doesn't open her mouth. Should I just let it go, or should I force my child to open the mouth? Oh,
Uh,
yeah, she doesn't talk much.
right.
Yeah,
Does she seem to be anxious?
mm, shy.
Sorry?
A lot of shyness is there. So how should I tell my child to overcome that?
One thing you can do in that situation, number one, I think we need to look at what is the developmental underlying this. Because there's bound to be something there developmentally that makes it difficult for her to speak in this situation. Does she talk at school?
Sarvat, does Samira talk in school? The internet's,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
yeah, the
So,
internet.
yeah, not much. Um, so there's something called, and I'm not diagnosing this or anything, but there is something called selective mutism. The child is able to talk, but in social situations, they become so anxious that they are not able to communicate and so forth. And that anxiety needs to be addressed in a developmental way, and forcing her to speak in front of people that when she's feeling anxious is not really going to help. It's apt to just make her more anxious. Um, One thing you can try is some role playing at school or at home, and pretend that, okay, maybe you know that somebody is coming over, and you might role play and pretend to be that person and have her kind of practice what she might say, just a few words to say hello, how are you, that kind of thing. Um, and that's something that we actually did at my Strategies for Learning in Karachi. Is I had several occupational and physical therapists working with me. So anytime the child would come for their appointment, they would be asked to greet all of us. They would come and shake hands and say assalamu alaikum to each and every one of us. And I know I had a boy who was about 9, and he had been diagnosed with autism, and his mother took him. He had been with us for just a few weeks, and his mother took him to a wedding in another city, and she said, I was shocked. He was walking up to everybody and shaking their hands and saying assalamu alaikum, where before he would never have even spoken. So that can help, just giving her a chance to practice that in a safe environment where she feels secure.
Yes, and I have noticed that Sarvat's daughter is actually a part of my storytelling group, and I have noticed that initially she was not able, or she was not opening her mouth, though she understood what I was asking her. But gradually, when she felt comfortable with all the other participants, and then she started speaking. So yes, I think that that's the best thing to do. That where you want the child to speak, just create that environment of at your home, and then maybe the child starts speaking. And moreover, I think the child needs appreciation, isn't it, Andrea?
Oh, yeah,
Appreciation is more important than
yes.
dejection, then you actually criticizing the child. If appreciation is important, even if she says hi, that's more than enough. You have to say you are the best child. What gracefully you said hi, you know.
Yes, that I will say in Handel, again, that is a judgment. So we would not probably say, wow, you did something really amazing, because she probably knows that just saying hi is not amazing. So we would say, oh, I'm so proud of you that you said hi today to somebody new. So just keep it very factual and help them to know what it is that they did right. So something that says, oh, this is what you did right. I appreciate that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we are not supposed to exaggerate it, the appreciation.
Yes, because they will start to not believe you, because they know whether they're doing well or not.
Yeah.
And if you exaggerate what they have done or tell them they've done well when they know it isn't that great, then they will stop believing what you are saying.
Okay, so now that we have some viewers on YouTube as well, we are live on YouTube and we have just a few minutes left for the program. So I have some questions from the viewers there here on my on the YouTube channel, and the question is from one of my sisters. She says that if my child is not interested in reading, but can understand everything, if the same story is heard, she is going in a wrong direction. Should she be forced to do more reading than listening? She says that she's if she listens to stories over and over again, she's able to again read that story out for she can narrate that story. But if she's made to read, she's unable to do that.
Yes.
So
number one, she might be memorizing it by listening to it over and over. So she's actually not reading it. There's not really such a thing as a child just not liking reading or not wanting to do something. If she's not doing it, there's some reason. And I'll talk about a case. I was doing some observing at the local school here, and the kindergarten children were being brought up one by one, and there was a flip chart with several sentences on it, and they were supposed to come up and read a line, note that there was a period at the end or a full stop at the end of the sentence, and then say, okay, now what do we do? The next sentence starts with a capital letter. So the children were all going up one by one, and then this little boy comes up, and I could see with my Handel eyes that he was just staring at the flip chart, and he was not focused. His eyes were not focused on the words. The teacher even took a ruler and tried to direct his eyes along that line of print, and he just stood there. So the next time I went, I said, can I work with this child individually? I wrote what was on the flip chart on a piece of paper and sat down with him. He started reading. He read the first line. He skipped the second line and read the third line. He skipped the fourth line and he read the fifth line. His eyes were not tracking smoothly along that paper, and he didn't even know that he was skipping lines, but whatever he was reading was not making any sense to him because every other line was skipped. He had no problem decoding new words and remembering them the next time. He comprehended everything, but his eyes were not tracking along that page, and so every other line was skipped, and what he was reading made no sense to him, so that would not be any fun to read, right? So there's going to be something going on.
Okay, yeah. So again, we need to patiently analyze what exactly is going on with the child's brain and development and his learning process. Definitely, Andrea, it was a beautiful session with you, and I am sure that the mothers would have benefited a lot with this conversation, with your speeches and with your comments and the advices that you have provided to our mothers, definitely. And again, I would like to remind all the mothers that your child is the best in the world. So just be patient and give him opportunity to learn in his own pace, and they not force in your pace to the child. So just wait and be patient with your child, and you will see blunders happening. Okay, so Definitely. If you have any more questions, I understand that now we have started getting questions and we have exhausted all the time. So I will be putting in the email address for Andrea in the comment section of our YouTube channel. Anyone who has questions, Andrea, if she's free, she will definitely answer your questions. And she's a very friendly lady, believe me. And Alhamdulillah, may Allah grant you a long life and a lot of happiness, Andrea. Thank you so much for being with us on this program. To all my viewers, I would thank you too for encouraging me to do this program and to start this talk show. We'll definitely have many more speakers who will be helping us being good mothers and helping our children develop. And if you want to know when we are going to be live, you can subscribe if you wish to my channel so that you get updates on when we are going to be live on YouTube, and you can watch and get benefit from all the experts and mothers around the world. Apart from this, if any mother thinks that she has had an experience which she would like to share with all the other mothers around the world, and so that they could also benefit or rectify what they are doing, you can definitely put in a message in this channel, and then I'll make sure that you are one of the guests in one of the episodes on this show. That's I Love You Mom. So thank you everyone, and thank you so much again, Andrea, for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Goodbye and take care. Stay safe and enjoy with your kids. Khuda Hafiz. Allah Hafiz, everyone.